If you had told me that TheWizardLiz, the biggest manifestation guru girly on the internet, who built her entire brand around teaching women high standards, self-worth, and choosing the right man, would end up manifesting a man who cheated on her while she was 4 months pregnant, honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised. That happened a year ago, and I also already made a 2-hour deep dive on that. But if you had told me what happened next, my flappers would be absolutely gasted. Girl, I'd be so shook. I'd have no other choice but to make another long-ass deep dive video. Because what went down after that is...
Hi guys, I just woke up to the father of my child posting my child's face on the internet, saying I abandoned my child, and I am literally going to sue the out of you for defamation. I don't know what to do. This guy makes no money. I literally hate this guy. I had to leave the country because I literally have to wait till my visa gets renewed, and I could not take my child because you legally prevented me. Landon knew this, and he knew this all along, but right before I had to leave, they arrested me, that is paying for everything. You haven't done but terrorize me, but live off of me. I don't know what to do. I literally don't know what to do. Like, how do I get rid of this guy and still have my child?
My visa for the United States got denied. Let's go. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not fighting.
Everyone says, poor child, poor child. No, nothing, poor child. My son should be with his father. I do not believe that I should stick around for my child. Honestly, I was very happy when my visa was denied.
This is the best time ever. I can finally sleep. I can finally enjoy my time.
No, but it just makes sense.
I abandoned my child. I abandoned my child. No, I abandoned myself, staying through all of the bullshit for my child. Let these men be single parents. Stop giving your power away to these men. Stop giving your life away for these kids that tomorrow all are going to be just ungrateful. Walk away every single time.
Yeah, we're gonna need to unpack all of that properly. Hi, my name is Jana and welcome back to the channel. The story that we're about to deep dive into today would be crazy no matter who it happened to. But the fact that it's happening to TheWizardLiz? Girl. Liz Jabralova, known online as TheWizardLiz, is a 27-year-old woman who is the literal face of manifestation culture online. If you've spent any time on social media and had women's self-improvement content pushed to you by the algorithm, I can guarantee that you know who she is. Her content is everywhere, and her videos have millions of views. The thing is, her content was never just about vibes, wishful thinking, or simply positive energy like other manifestation guru girlies. Her entire brand was built around the idea that she had figured something most women hadn't. That the reason why some people end up with a life abundant in success, money, and stable relationships while others don't all comes down to mindset, standards, and the choices they make. So if anyone was supposed to avoid a situation like she's in now, it was Liz. Which leaves us with one obvious question. What went wrong? And just to be clear, this isn't a video about bashing TheWizardLiz or taking pleasure in her situation. Yes, I do make jokes here and there in my videos, but if you're familiar with my content, that's just my sense of humor and how I cope with heavy situations like this one. What's happening to TheWizardLiz is genuinely horrible, and it's not something I would wish on anyone. But as difficult as the situation is, it's also a case of what ultimately happens when two people build a relationship on something that isn't grounded in reality and then bring a child into it. And what makes this story so crazy is that it's basically an international disaster. Liz starts off living in Dubai, manifests a man she randomly meets at an airport in Athens, who would later turn out to be an unhinged, cheating baby daddy, moves to the United States to have his child, somehow ends up in Japan without the child, and before you know it, we've got a whole international baby drama spanning 4 or 5 different countries here. That's a lot of traveling and a whole lot of stress. Thankfully, today's sponsor Saley actually makes traveling a whole lot less stressful. If you've ever landed in another country only to realize your mobile data is either ridiculously expensive or just doesn't work, Saley fixes that. Saley is an eSIM app, which basically means you can buy a data plan for over 200 destinations straight from your phone without having to mess around with physical SIM cards or get hit with ridiculous roaming charges. So whether you're traveling for a holiday, a work trip, or accidentally moving across 4 or 5 different countries because of your relationship drama, it's genuinely useful to have. It literally takes a couple minutes to set up, and you can choose whatever data plan you need, and you're connected as soon as you arrive. Like right now! Girl, I'm in the middle of nowhere, Kenya, Africa, and I'm a little lost, so I'm gonna need to use my Saley eSIM app to come get help. Good thing I already downloaded the Saley app, which works on both iOS and Android devices that support eSIM technology. All I had to do was pick a data plan, follow the easy instructions to install, and my eSIM activated automatically as soon as I landed in Kenya. Hello? Yeah, hi. I'm stranded in the middle of nowhere. Can you send a helicopter so I can get back to the video? See? Saley works. If you want to try it yourself, you can get 15% off your Saley data plan by using my code JANA at checkout. You can also visit saley.com/JANA or simply scan the QR code on your screen to get started. Thank you so much for Saley for sponsoring today's video and for being the first sponsor on this channel. Guys, I'm making it. Now back to the Wizard Liz. The Wizard Liz and the baby trapping saga really isn't about Landon cheating or the custody battle. Those are just the consequences. To really understand what happened, we have to go back to where it all started, the online world of manifestation culture. Manifestation is the belief that your thoughts and intentions can shape your reality. Now, most people obviously don't take that literally. We hope. For a lot of people, manifestation is really just a form of self-improvement. It's just generally about using a positive mindset to feel more confident, motivated, and empowered in everyday life. The concept of manifestation exploded online during the pandemic in women's self-improvement spaces, and it didn't take long before the Wizard Liz became one of its biggest creators.
Hi guys, my name is Liz and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I am going to show you guys how you can manifest your dream life.
Now, manifestation content tends to appeal to a lot of people, but from what I've seen, it seems to resonate the most with women. I think part of that appeal is obvious. It's aesthetic. Vision boards, luxury lifestyles, glow-ups, Pinterest quotes are all very aesthetic, very pretty things to look at. But I think the deeper appeal is that manifestation promises women confidence, control, and a roadmap to the life you want if you just believe hard enough.
You know what I find so weird? Whenever somebody says manifesting is being delusional, manifesting is believing in your own lies. Aren't we always delusional? I think it's important to realize that we're delusional every single day. We're delusional our whole life. So why not be delusional to the things that you can attract, to the things that you want? So I think that you need to start realizing you can receive anything you want, but you have to put in the work.
Most of this content is pretty harmless, and some of it can be genuinely helpful. But over the years, especially after the pandemic, I've noticed that certain corners of women's self-improvement and manifestation have moved way past just being about self-improvement and into more specific gendered ideology. A worldview that, in my opinion, promotes some very unhealthy and sometimes even harmful ideas about men, women, and relationships.
Hey y'all, public service announcement. Once again, I am here to inform you, I am not a dating coach. I am a get your money from these men coach. So I'm here to tell you how to get your money, keep your money, grow your money by using his and saving yours. I'm here to teach you that you should not be going 50-50 and that you should definitely not be reaching in your wallet when you're in the presence of a grown, able-bodied man. Thank you. Sprinkle, sprinkle.
This is Shira7, famously known as the Sprinkle Sprinkle Lady on TikTok. And in my opinion, she's the most well-known example of this type of gendered ideology that's infiltrated self-improvement and manifestation spaces. Now, Shira promotes a very specific worldview. People are either valuable or dussies, and a woman's value is reflected in the kind of man she can attract.
Okay, so another way to make men pay for you. Before you even get on a date or in a relationship, it has to be known that you're a lady and you like men who are charming, polite, generous, and a gentleman. So when they say, well, what are you looking for? The best thing you can say when you're trying to get men to spend on you, I'm looking for someone, I'm looking for, a gentleman. I'm looking for someone who knows how to treat a lady. I'm looking for someone who is not afraid to be generous when it's appropriate. Keyword, when it's appropriate. That means you're not looking for a sugar daddy, but I'm looking for someone who have the money to spend. If you look like you deserve all of that, he ain't gonna have no problem with it. He says, well, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to be that person for you. act like it's no big deal. It's like, oh, don't worry about it. It's perfectly fine. He's going to leave feeling broke, cheap, and stupid.
And I think the most important part of this ideology, especially when it comes to Liz's story, is the way the ideology views money and relationships. In this worldview, a man's willingness to spend money on a woman is treated as proof of his character. His financial investment is evidence that he's serious about you, loyal and high value. The more he provides, the safer the relationship with him supposedly is. By making the man invest first and invest early, the belief is that the woman protects herself from being the one who ends up investing more, getting abandoned, or supporting the relationship if things go sour. In other words, the woman is encouraged to keep the so-called upper hand in the relationship, because apparently the foundation of any healthy relationship is making sure one person has more power than the other. Now, when it comes to Liz and her WizardLiz persona, I would argue that she's not as extreme as Shira. However, I think Liz's messaging overlaps a lot of times. For example, Liz has consistently described financial provision from a man as the bare minimum and calls it the princess treatment.
I heard that you don't know how to get spoiled by a man. And I heard that some of you, and honestly, my heart breaks every time I think about this, are paying for a man. I know that you guys need my help. That's why I'm here.
And while Liz has said multiple times that women shouldn't marry a man purely for money because she sees that as desperate and not really a real relationship,
I think it's actually very insecure if like people only focus on having luxury items and showing off that they have it. Like, it shows insecurity. So it doesn't matter if the guy right now makes like $1,000, $2,000, whatever a month. Don't expect like Rolexes or like crazy cars from someone that makes $1,000 a month. Allow your man to grow.
She's also argued that a man who truly cares about you should be willing to financially provide.
I'm not saying go for money in a partner, you know? I mean, that should be the bare minimum. Like, imagine a guy's loyal, but he literally doesn't have money. What do you have there?
Although, I do think she's updated her views on this a little bit more recently, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
I've always thought, can he provide? Can he bring me money? I've seen men as ATMs my whole life. That's all I've seen in them.
That's for later. Now, there are a lot of reasons why some women are drawn to this sort of worldview. But in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons is past trauma involving men. A lot of women in these spaces, including Liz and Shira, seem to be drawn and promote this kind of gendered ideology because they connect many of their biggest life struggles to negative experiences with men. In Liz's case, this shows up in how she's spoken about her father, where she describes him as abusive and a major influence on her difficult upbringing.
My dad was a broke man. My dad had no ambition and he lived off of my mother. When he had the money that he was stealing from my mom and he wasn't giving her 1 cent, he was abusing her. He wasn't giving us any money and we literally lived in poverty because of him, and he was sending all his money back home.
As you can imagine, growing up with a father figure like that can shape what you later see as normal in relationships and what you come to value most in a partner. For Liz, it seems to have led her to placing more importance on financial stability in a partner, especially based on what she saw her mom go through with her dad.
First things first, I need you to understand that people in life get what they expect. I've always expected my partner to pay all my bills and do everything financially for me because I grew up watching my mom go to work every single day, work in between men, and her ex-husband lay at home, do nothing. And then after like a long abusive marriage like that, where she was the provider, he ended up cheating on her with a younger woman. Now he has a family with this woman, and guess what? He is providing everything for this woman. He is working and paying all the bills. Why is he doing this now? Because that woman expects him to. There is no other option. He cannot be with that woman unless he works. And with my mom, her ex-husband, he knew if he worked or if he didn't work, she would still continue to provide and stay because of the children. I need women to understand that men will say they want good women, but good women never get rewarded. It's always like, oh, I want a day one girl. I want a girl that has been there from the beginning. But those women get literally later on cheated on.
Why is this? Because that's not the woman they want. That's the only woman they can get right now. Once they are at a level where they have the money, they want to spend their money on the fantasy woman, on the woman that they actually want.
What stands out to me the most here is that what Liz is describing shows just how much this ideology works as a perceived survival tactic. In my opinion, measuring a man's worth by how much he's willing to spend on you isn't really about having high standards, but rather is coming from a place of hurt and fear. For women like Liz, the core survival logic becomes, if I end up with a man like my father, someone who can't provide, then I'll end up in poverty and abuse just like my mother. And when you've grown up watching that happen, it's really not that hard to understand why this messaging would feel true. Women who believe in the ideology learn to associate love and security from men with money. They learn that the worst case scenario of choosing the wrong man is being poor and struggling. And like I mentioned, for a lot of women, this thinking is based on real experiences. Now, I try my best to always come at these topics from a place of empathy and understanding, and to keep an open mind when considering different perspectives. But the reason I think this ideology is worth questioning is because while it may come from a place of wanting protection and safety as a disadvantaged woman, seeing how horribly Liz and Landon's story played out shows us just how dangerous it can be to build relationships around these ideas. Because in my opinion, the biggest problem with this gendered ideology is that it ultimately rewards predatory behavior in men and makes disadvantaged women more vulnerable to them. It teaches women that how much a man is willing to spend on them is proof of his love and loyalty. And once you start believing in that, it becomes much easier to overlook red flags and predatory men that would otherwise be obvious. And that's what brings us to Landon Nickerson. Landon's story is important because, in my opinion, he's pretty much the perfect example of the kind of man manifestation culture and Liz's ideology rewards. Unlike Liz, Landon doesn't seem to have the same kind of dramatic backstory. He doesn't really have a story of growing up in poverty or overcoming a traumatic childhood. His parents were divorced, but from everything I could find, he grew up in what looked like a pretty normal, middle-class American family. He also seemed to have a fairly strong support system with good relationships with his step-parents and his 4 siblings, which I think is something worth keeping in mind later when we look at why Liz chose to co-parent with him in America. Now, one thing that really stood out to me during Landon's childhood was just how obsessed he became with internet fame. Like, very, very unusually obsessed. From a pretty young age, he seemed completely focused on becoming a big gaming YouTuber, just like his cousin Preston, who was already successful in the gaming creator space at the time and is still one of the biggest gaming YouTubers today.
Who is Preston to you? Preston to me is my cousin. He is awesome. I love him to death. I started YouTube because of my cousin, like I said. I saw him playing and I saw him making you guys happy, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I can do that too. I like making people happy. I like doing all this stuff. So yeah, why not?
The reason I find Landon's obsession with internet fame so unusual is that while a lot of teenagers dream about being famous online, most of them also move between different interests every few months. So for the average teenager, wanting to be a famous YouTuber is usually just a phase that doesn't last very long. But apparently not for Landon. Landon very much committed to uploading videos almost every day for years, and even chose not to go to college because he genuinely believed he was going to be the next big gaming YouTuber just like his cousin. During the pandemic, gaming content exploded in popularity. One of the biggest games on the internet was Fortnite, the battle royale shooter that dominated YouTube, Twitch, and pretty much every teenager's time. And for Landon, this was the big moment he'd been waiting for. Now, to say Landon got big off Fortnite for being underwhelming would be a giant understatement. And I know I'm being a little rude here, but given how things later played out in all of his relationships, let's just say I think I'm justified. A big part of Landon's content strategy seemed to revolve around massive giveaways and spending ridiculous amounts of money on V-Bucks.
Hi, my name is Landon. So basically I started as a young lad playing Fortnite at the end of 2017. And from 2017 to 2019, Fortnite literally consumed my life. Some of my favorite, most notable moments or memories from when I was playing Fortnite and making content were when I gifted people battle passes. I think I've gifted more than $10,000 worth of battle passes, but it is safe to say one of the most viral things that I did, most inspired moment in Fortnite was when I decided to buy 1 million V-Bucks. For those of you guys who don't know, this was a very long and expensive process. I basically had to go and spend a few $100s every single day buying 13,000 V-Bucks at a time. Essentially, I just streamed myself playing Fortnite, buying V-Bucks for about 20 days until we hit the million V-Bucks mark. But I had no idea it would do as well as it did. I started getting tweets left and right. These viral Fortnite accounts were tagging me. Not only was I the first person to buy a million V-Bucks once, I'm also the only person to buy a million V-Bucks twice. I don't think the face cam will really show you well, but this account has a million V-Bucks on it too.
God, I cannot believe Liz, of all people, ended up with this guy, but I guess in hindsight, it just makes so much sense. All cringe aside, in my opinion, this is where Landon learned something important that would shape his future relationships, that looking successful matters more than actually being successful. Even if he wasn't particularly talented or impressive, people would still give him attention and validation if they believed he was. And if there's one thing Landon seemed to love, it was that sweet, sweet validation.
Verb, I'm the GOAT. The greatest you know.
Sometime during his Fortnite era, Landon meets Catherine, his first public girlfriend.
Okay, I feel like we should answer this one real quick just because probably 10% of the questions are this. How did we meet? I met her on Instagram, actually. I saw her picture. It was just on the Explore page. I was like, this girl's so beautiful. Oh my God. I gotta message her. That's that. Okay, next question.
Now, I don't think you need perfect vision to see that Catherine, like a lot of the women Landon has dated, was way out of his league. But for whatever reason, Catherine really seemed to adore Landon. Now, looking back at Landon's Fortnite era, I don't think the game, the money, or even Catherine were the most important things he got out of it. In my opinion, the biggest thing Landon got was the validation, which is important when we start looking at him and the Wizard Liz. Once Landon got a taste of it, it seemed like he literally couldn't get enough, to the point where he seemed to spend years chasing more of it, especially from women. Which brings us to Landon's completely normal and definitely not parasocial admiration for one of the biggest female gaming creators at the time, Pokimane, or pokimane, which is what most people seem to call her. Landon seemed to do a lot of collaborations with Pokimane in his Fortnite content. And by collaborations, I mean Landon repeatedly donating large sums of money in her live stream chat while she, occasionally acknowledged his existence.
The top Minecraft streamer is Pokimane. If you guys don't know, we've done a couple vids with Poki in the past, and I love Poki, man. She's so wholesome. Let's let her know what we're up to as soon as we donate. I'm gonna donate 50, and I'm gonna say, hey Poki, I have a challenge for you. If you want to accept, go to the surface. Donation just went through. Oh, here it is. Here it is.
Greater than I have a challenge for you.
Oh. Pokey officially didn't say anything about the dono. She didn't say anything about the dono. Guys, I'm sitting at a $150 donation. I literally am saying, gamer, please go to the surface.
You're being distracting, Landon.
All right, I've already donated $400, so let me just do another 600 just to get her to a K. Dono time. This is the big reaction.
This dude said, I'll give you a gift card and donate $600. Huh?
Yeah, I don't think girl gave a single I think it's absolutely fascinating that even before Liz, Landon already had a public record of being drawn to women who had a certain level of status and recognition online. There seemed to be a pattern of him chasing validation from women who represented a certain level of success. Keep in mind, while Landon was doing this to Pokimane, he was still very much in a public relationship with Catherine, which on top of being incredibly disrespectful, I think this is an interesting detail because it shows that the issue wasn't that Catherine was somehow lacking as a partner, and it wasn't really about Pokimane herself either. It was about what being chosen by someone like Pokimane would mean.
Delusion.
Girl, I completely agree. You see, Pokimane represented a fantasy. The idea that if someone at the top of the gaming world wanted him, it would be the ultimate form of validation. For Landon, that is. But the thing about fantasies is that they aren't real life. And when they do become reality, the moment doesn't last long. Fortnite was an online fad, and like most online fads, it eventually came and went. Even though this was a dream Landon had chased since he was a kid, the peak of his YouTube success was actually pretty short-lived. Obviously, nothing ever came from Landon and Pokimane. And as for Catherine, she and Landon eventually broke up toward the end of his Fortnite YouTube era. The full details of the breakup aren't public, but Catherine has made comments since suggesting that the relationship was not a good experience for her, which unfortunately seems to become a recurring theme with women who have been involved with Landon. Now, with men like Landon who build their identity around status and validation, the hardest thing to accept is that their success doesn't last forever. The idea of losing that status that comes with success is so unbearable to them that they will keep chasing that image of success even if they have to fake it along the way. Which brings us to Landon's arc era. Landon's arc era is very important because this was essentially the version of Landon that Liz fell in love with. And it's also important to understand that by the end of his Fortnite era, Landon had clearly become used to the lifestyle that came with that success. The money, attention, and status became a big part of how he saw himself. But when Fortnite started dying down, that version of Landon started disappearing too. So Landon needed to find something else that could bring him back to that same level of success and attention. Because without it, he would have to face the possibility that maybe he wasn't as exceptional as he believed he was. Absolutely terrifying. And so the next opportunity for Landon to avoid that horrible fate came in the form of his startup company, ARC.
2, 1. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to tell you guys a bit of insight into my startup company, ARC.
At the start, ARC actually looked like it was on the right track. The company raised significant investor funding, and Landon was able to present himself as a young, promising tech CEO, building the future with technology that was supposedly ahead of its time.
Imagine you have 2 rings. You connect these smart rings to a mobile device. Bear with me, I know this sounds crazy. In essence, the concept at the time was you could get a text on your phone and you could feel the information. You could be driving and have the GPS on your phone, and instead of, having to listen to what the GPS is saying, you could just feel it.
Now, it's not really clear how Landon secured the funding to get ARC off the ground or how the whole thing came together in the first place. But what is clear is that ARC quickly became the next big thing Landon built his identity around. Once again, for Landon, the image of success seemed to be just as important, if not more important, than the actual process of building something successful. And we can really see this in the way Landon talked about ARC. A lot of the focus seemed to be on the money raised, the vision, and the ambition of becoming a major tech company, but not as much as, what the company was actually building.
I had just closed $2 million in pre-seed funding for this company. Have an additional $1 million of capital and an in-kind investment lined up. That's freaking crazy. This is crazy. I think this company, ARC, will rival Apple or Microsoft or Amazon within 5 years. This is really crazy, man. This is going to change the world.
Right. Now, ARC has technically existed since 2020, but years later, and despite the funding and all of Landon's excitement about it, there still doesn't seem to be much to show for it. As of making this video, there still doesn't appear to be an ARC ring that people can actually buy, which is pretty crazy, but also not that surprising, I guess. I mean, Landon went from being a teenage gaming YouTuber who never went to college to trying to become a tech CEO almost overnight. What could possibly go wrong? Am I right? Also, let's not forget that the product is literally a ring that's supposed to be a controller for your phone and TV.
Grüß Gott, hallo. Heute ist mein Geburtstag.
The biggest reason ARC failed seems to be that Landon was more focused on the image of being a successful CEO than actually becoming one. It never really felt like Landon's major goal was building a great company. Rather, the goal seemed to be becoming the kind of guy who would call himself a tech CEO, especially when it got him the attention of women who represented the kind of success he wanted to be associated with.
Hi. I'm not really wanting to make this video, but I feel like I'm obligated to.
This is Abby Seidel, Landon's ex-girlfriend before Liz. Abby is a social media model, but when she met Landon, she was working as a bottle girl at one of the nightclubs he frequently went to.
I met Landon 2023 to 2024. I met him in Dallas, Texas. He's from Oklahoma. I'm from Texas. I met him. I was the bottle girl. I was not in a relationship.
Like many of the women who have dated Landon, Abby describes the beginning of the relationship as perfect. She describes him as attentive, involved, and someone who is willing to put a lot of effort into making her feel valued.
He's so sweet, he's so nice, he's a gamer. Everyone's saying he's just such a nice person. And I'm like, great, you could be a nice person. You're in my age range. You're freaking smart. I love when people are smart. He made me feel so loved, so seen, so heard, so understood. He took my trauma that I didn't want to open up about, and he made it feel like I'm safe. And I believed him because at the end of the day, like, he was just such a nice person.
But according to Abby, that version of Landon didn't last.
We started dating. He cheated on me with the first girl. I was so stupid, and it's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. I took him back like 7 times. He cheated on me. I took him back. He cheated on me again with the same girl. They went to the same party. I just lost. I was like, whatever, just go do you. He invited her to Hawaii with his guy friends in like June. And then I found that out when I went through his phone. We broke up again, and he went to go to Bora Bora with his guy friends. I totally believed that that was the story that he was telling me. It wasn't. He's with the girl, another girl that he cheated on me with. She's from Florida. And that hurt. That really hurt because he didn't post me on social media. We never hard launched it because I knew that I was never going to hard launch it because every girl in Dallas has been with this man while he was with me, exclusive. I was exclusive with him. And I was just embarrassed.
Cheating in a relationship is always wrong, no matter the reason. It really just reflects a lack of respect for the person you're with. And recurring cheating patterns in Landon's relationship with Abby and even his later relationship with Liz really just expose how men like Landon, who need constant validation to feel good about themselves, very much rely on cheating to regulate their emotions. Serial cheaters like Landon don't see the women they're in relationships with as full individuals with their, own feelings and needs, but rather as an outlet to boost their own egos. At least that's how I see it. And what makes this even worse is that it's not like serial cheaters don't understand cheating is wrong. They very well know it hurts the person they're with. It's just, to them, their own needs are simply more important than the other person. But the thing about cheating is that the other person isn't going to accept that kind of betrayal forever. Eventually, there comes a point where they start questioning what's happening, calling it out, and asking for better. Now, I know that sounds obvious, but what makes situations with serial cheaters and men like Landon so complicated is what happens when the person they're hurting finally decides they've had enough. Because with men like Landon, the problem isn't just the cheating, but how they react when you try to leave them.
I let him walk out of my life, and I was okay with that. I was doing so good. I woke up with thousands of emails, calls. There was this is everything. This is everything. This is everything. Showed up my house with all these gifts and all these flowers. I said no. I respected myself. Finally, said no. I break up with him. I don't see him. He sent me thousands of flowers. He found my address. He found my therapist here in Miami. And I freak out. I'm texting him like, how the f*** do you find my therapist? How the f***? He's like, I wanted you back. I wanted her to have my experience with you. I wanted her to see that I love you. And I'm like, he didn't even deny it. I break up with him. I don't talk to him. I don't see him. After that night, I do not see him. I go to Europe. I'm on my dream vacation with this massive group of us. We're having so much fun. I get to Ibiza. He's in Ibiza, and he's with Ibiza. He stalks me in Ibiza. He found out where I was going because I was talking about I need to go get Sephora. He sees me. He comes up to me. He cyber stalked where I was going to be, and he was there in Sephora begging for me back again. He comes up to me. He's like, I'm going to talk to you. He makes a big scene. My bodyguard comes in at the end, and we're like, yeah, we need to leave. So he escorts us out. We pay, we leave. I'm in the car crying. I'm like, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so scared. I left out a part where I called the police on Landon. And I can't believe I forgot about that. But I did call the police on Landon because he put his hands on me, and we were in the car together driving home. And I was scared that he was going to do it again. And he locked the door and I couldn't get out. So I was really terrified. So I did call the police on him once. And when the police came, I always told him, I was like, he's not the type that would like me, but he's definitely the type that would kidnap me, and then I never see my family again.
Now, I've gone over Abby's story multiple times, and every time I come back to it, I'm still shocked by what she says she experienced in her relationship with Landon. It's honestly a really difficult thing to hear, and my heart genuinely goes out to her for what she says she went through. Thankfully, Abby was able to fully separate herself from the situation. From what she shared, what seems to have made that possible was the right support around her. She was getting professional help for her mental health, had friends who believed in her, and had a new boyfriend who supported her, which are all things that can make a huge difference when you're trying to leave an abusive relationship. But in my opinion, from what she said, the biggest turning point was that she eventually stopped seeing the version of Landon she fell in love with and started seeing him for who he really was.
I was like, you don't have control over me. That's why you want me. You don't even love me. You just want to be wanted. You just want to be wanted so bad. You want to be wanted. Like, who does that?
Now, Abby's story is so important because she revealed that Landon already had a history of treating women this way before Liz came along. But believe it or not, that's only part of it. Abby also revealed something about Landon that completely challenged the awesome multi-millionaire tech CEO image he had built for himself. And had Liz known it at the time, I honestly think she probably would have avoided him altogether. I knew his credit card limit because I was his bottle server, and his card would get declined when the charge was over $8,000. Landon also lied to me about owning his condo in Dallas, when it actually was a friend's parents that owned it. I also didn't trust him financially, because he would spend excessive amounts on drugs and partying in Dallas, and when he would cheat on me, he spent so much money trying to win me back. Wow. Landon? The guy who threw money around to build his popularity online, who gave Pokimane thousands of dollars to simp for her while dating another woman, and who then went on to present himself as a successful tech CEO despite not having a product out yet, was not as actually rich as he claimed? Girl, truly the plot twist nobody saw coming. By the time Landon and Abby were done, Ark was driving the struggle bus off a cliff. Landon's financial situation was suspect at best, and he literally seemed to have no other prospects anywhere else. And yet, this was the exact moment he managed to attract the biggest manifestation guru girly and self-proclaimed high-value women on the internet.
I was sitting thinking, oh my God, I feel like I manifested you.
That was one of the questions as well, by the way. Do you guys think you manifested each other? I really think I did that. I actually got scared of my own abilities to manifest.
Aged very badly. Liz and Landon's story was, in Liz's own words, the perfect manifestation love story. They met on Instagram, of course, Landon's usual hunting ground for girlfriends, and then just happened to conveniently run into each other at an airport.
Me and my friends, we go to the airport, and mind you guys, I'm wearing a cap that's like up until here. You can barely see. I'm wearing a mask, okay? This is how much you can see of my face, okay? Like nothing. I'm sitting, and all of a sudden, I hear Liz. I look up, and I'm like, Landon? And guys, I do not know how he recognized me. I do not know how I recognized him. So he's like, yeah, I'm going back to America, but he's like, I forgot my bag where you were sitting. That's why I came back for my bag. Guys, can you imagine the coincidence here? You know, look how divinely guided that is. I was like, listen, instead of like going back to America, if you want, you can join me and my friend on our trip to Santorini. We've never been, so we can explore together. And yeah, me and him were inseparable ever since.
Now, what's absolutely fascinating about Liz and Landon meeting was how much Liz was massively attracted to Landon when they first met. I think to put it into context, it's not like this was the first time Liz had been around wealthy men. In fact, Liz's first boyfriend, who she moved to Dubai for at 19 years old, was a multi-millionaire. And even Liz's ex before Landon was apparently making good money and financially providing for her. The difference with Landon, though, in my opinion, was that he seemed to tick all the boxes for Liz. He looked successful, but he was also younger and much closer to her age.
I felt such a strong energy from him, and I'm a person, I'm very intuitive, so I feel things. I don't really think, I feel. So I'm sitting in front of him, and it was almost like we're sitting and he's talking to me, and everyone else started to become noise. We were almost like the only one in the airport, and I felt like such a strong energy overcome me. And I looked at him, and I've never had that feeling with anyone that I saw, and I was like, whoa. I'm actually shook.
Let's be real, girl was horny. I mean, very interested. And so was Landon. Both Liz and Landon fell for each other incredibly quickly, but in my opinion, they weren't really falling for each other. Rather, they were falling in love with the fantasy each other represented. For Landon, that fantasy was pretty obvious. Being with TheWizardLiz, for one, boosted his ego, gave him the validation from an internet personality he'd been chasing since his Fortnite days, and meant he didn't have to confront the reality that his own life and career were basically falling apart. And Liz fell for a fantasy too, but in my opinion, the fantasy she fell for was even bigger and a lot more unfortunate. Because from Liz's perspective, Landon was young, successful, and had money, allegedly. He seemed like an exact kind of man she'd spent years telling women they could attract if they had the right mindset and high enough standards. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think it was stupid for Liz to want to believe that, or that she was stupid to think she could attract that kind of man. I just think the fantasy she fell for wasn't really about Landon as much as it was believing that she'd finally escape the same cycle she'd watched her mother go through. In her mind, she wasn't becoming her mother, who ended up with a broke man who cheated on her. Instead, Liz believed she was the high-value woman, the woman who had made better choices and finally found a better man.
When choosing a partner or someone to have children with, I make that decision very, very clearly, and I think about it a lot because I want my children to look up to their father, and I want to have a great example for them. Because I know that I'll try to do my best to give them the best life that I can.
Liz and Landon's relationship was perfect at first because of how much it was feeding both of their fantasies. Liz was constantly posting about Landon, talking about how amazing he was and presenting him as the perfect man she had manifested. Meanwhile, Landon was spending time with Liz, paying her bills, buying her gifts, and sort of playing the role of the wealthy provider she had always talked about. And after just 3 months of knowing each other, they were engaged and, according to Liz, allegedly married.
I think for me, the hardest part about marriage is honestly living with someone, like especially a man.
Are you saying I'm hard to live with?
Now, unfortunately, fantasies are called fantasies for a reason. They aren't real. And I think Liz and Landon's relationship shows exactly what can happen when you fall in love with a fantasy instead of the person. Because literally after publicly announcing their marriage in a husband and wife Q&A video, Liz announced on an Instagram post that Landon had cheated on her and that she was 4 months pregnant with his child.
As a lot of you guys have seen, my ex-husband/fiance decided to send Snapchat messages to one of my fans. Girl said she was a fan of mine. She screenshot that with her other phone. She took a picture and she sent that to my friend. And that's how I saw it. I found out about this when I was 4 months pregnant.
Now, there was a lot of drama that unfolded after Landon's cheating scandal. Fans of TheWizardLiz were obviously furious at Landon, and to say that pretty much every drama channel on the internet was covering the scandal would be an absolute understatement. But to me, the most interesting part came after the cheating, because that's when Liz started talking about all the red flags about Landon she said had been there from the very beginning and that she noticed all along.
When I invited him to Santorini, Landon was really nice. Everything was great. He was very kind, super sweet, super gentleman-like. But then there was a moment where we went out and there was a Asian guy that wanted to talk to me and get to know me, and he thought I was really cute. Going outside for a talk, and Landon did not like that at all. And then basically followed us outside, and he got really upset with me, and he was like, why are you doing this? Don't talk to him. And these two guys almost got in a fight over me. And I then got a little bit of ooh, that was a red flag for me, because I thought you're just like my ex, very controlling, very jealous. And I was like, I don't want to repeat this pattern again. When I saw that behavior from Landon, I really thought to myself, this is not for me. And I really thought after that, let's just stay friends and let's just focus on being friends and that's it. But Landon really wanted me. And I went back home with my friend and I was just going on with my life. And Landon kept messaging me, and I just wouldn't really respond anymore because I didn't want to give him any hope. And then I remember one day he called me and I did pick up and I was like, hey, what's up? And then he was like, look, I really want you to be my wife. Like, I just know you're supposed to be my wife. And he's like, I want to do anything for you. Like, I want to take care of you. Like, send me your bank account details or your PayPal. Like, I want to prove to you that I really want to do anything for you. And then he sent me $10,000. And then I thought, wow, like, he's literally sending me $10,000 so I would reply to his messages. And then I thought, wow, like, maybe I should give him a chance because look how, like, what he's doing, like a big thing to do, you know what I mean?
Now, this, in my opinion, is exactly what makes the gendered ideology Liz believed and promoted to millions of women so dangerous. Because if Landon was already controlling, jealous, and willing to fight another man for simply talking to her, and all it took Liz to overlook those behaviors was $10,000, then I don't think this ideology stops women from ending up with the wrong men. In my opinion, it actually makes it easier for manipulative men to use money to prey on vulnerable women. Because to me, when a woman overlooks those behaviors because of the money, manipulative men don't see that and think, wow, look how high her standards are. They think, as long as I have the money, I can get away with a lot more. And to me, that's exactly the dynamic we saw with Liz and Landon. But eventually, it seemed like even the money wasn't enough to hide who Landon really was. After feeling betrayed and publicly humiliated by Landon's cheating, Liz specifically said she was ready to move on.
When you find out someone is a cheater and they cheated on you, I don't feel like that's really a bad thing. I feel like it's really protection from God. I feel like you literally got protected, okay? You saw this person for who they were, and better that you saw it very, very fast. I wasn't really sad. I was honestly so happy. I honestly felt like, like finally, I felt like I can now go and travel, and I wanted to do those things. And I was really happy. There's so many bad things happening in the world. Cheating, yeah, well, that's it. What can you do? You saw the person for who they were, and then you decide, what do you do next? How do you handle this next?
And honestly, if the story ended there, I definitely wouldn't be making this follow-up video. The story didn't end though, because instead of cutting Landon out of her life, Liz made a decision that would make sure he stayed in it forever. After Landon cheated, Liz uprooted her entire life and moved to the United States to give birth to their son. Bruh. The same man that was just accused of being controlling, abusive, and unfaithful was now someone Liz was going to be tied with to the rest of her life. Liz's decision to co-parent with Landon in a country she's not even from is honestly one of the most confusing and frustrating decisions she's made in this entire situation. Because the more you think about it, the less it actually makes sense. Especially because the reason Liz gives for it seems to, periodically change.
25 now, let me just get married, let me have a kid,
So the reason that I even moved out was because my doggy told me that he didn't want me to live in the same city as my ex, because my ex lived like 5 minutes away from me.
Couldn't you have stayed in Dubai? He would refuse to send my cats. So if I wanted to see my cats again, I had to go to the United States and get them myself. So then I was like, okay, maybe it's better then I can take my cats and he can see his child at least, and he doesn't have to travel on the plane, I
was like, oh my God, okay, whatever. I think the United States is good for my career. So I'll go there instead.
So I went there. I got my cat.
Yeah, I don't think girl knows why she had a baby and moved either. To be fair, from a practical point of view, moving to the United States actually made a lot of sense. At the time, Liz was living in Dubai as a Belgian citizen, and having a baby there would have made immigration and residency for the baby much more complicated. Then there's also Liz's family situation. As we've talked about, Liz came from a very dysfunctional family, while Landon's family was in the United States and seemed much more involved. So on paper, raising the baby there, where his parents and siblings could supposedly help, wasn't an irrational decision. Now, those are all very logical and practical reasons. After all, deciding where to raise your child is probably one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make as a parent. So you'd expect that kind of decision to, be driven by logic and practicality. But here's the thing. Most people don't make the biggest decisions of their lives purely based on logic, especially after they've just gone through the level of betrayal and public humiliation that Liz did. Now, after everything Landon had done to her, I don't think Liz's biggest motivation was to, figure out the most practical place to raise her child. In my opinion, I think Liz wanted something else. I think that because she saw herself as deeply wronged by Landon, it seems like Liz approached the situation expecting him to somehow make up for everything he'd put her through. And in her mind, the only way he could do that was by spending the rest of his life supporting her and their child in America. Essentially, becoming her personal financial slave for life. The ultimate revenge. Now, that might sound extreme, but I think it makes a lot more sense when you remember how Liz talks about her father. In her mind, if Landon was going to put her through what her father put her mother through, then he was going to have to pay for it. Literally. And in doing that, she could prove to everyone that she came on top and, sort of won the situation. And at first, it looked like that was exactly what was happening. Liz shared that Landon paid for her baby appointments and hospital fees for the birth. She also made sure to show everyone that she had bought a mansion and Lamborghini to sort of, reinforce this idea that she was thriving in America.
Hi guys, come with me to get my single mom card because everyone in the comments keep reminding me that I'm a single mom, and I thought, oh my god, they're right, I need a card. I also wanted to buy myself a push present because the baby is due in a few weeks. Here I'm signing because I paid it. I wanted to buy a nice and safe single mom car. The seats also massage you as you're sitting, which I really, really like, and I feel like sister. Thank you so much for watching.
Right. But as we've said time and time and again, fantasies are called fantasies for a reason. Sooner or later, you're forced to deal with reality. And for Liz, the reality wasn't mansions, Lambos, or winning. Girl, the reality was diapers. It was a newborn who depended on her for absolutely everything. And it was waking up every day in a country that wasn't her home, away from everything she'd built, with no real support system of her own. And on top of that, tied for life to her cheating baby daddy. And facing that reality, in my opinion, was when things between Liz and Landon only started getting worse. Because only a few months after settling and giving birth in the United States, Liz had Landon arrested for domestic violence and requested temporary restraining orders against him.
He got arrested for domestic violence, and by the way, that's the first time I ever called the police on him, because this guy told me that if I call the police, then he will call ICE on me.
And just like that, the revenge fantasy was over. At this point, we are way past manifestation and high-value woman content. I mean, it's police, restraining orders, domestic violence allegations, and a baby caught right in the middle of it. The news of Landon's domestic violence arrest basically opened a can of worms about Liz and Landon's co-parenting situation. Because what a lot of people thought was happening actually wasn't happening. And neither Liz nor Landon's stories seemed to add up. I think the biggest thing for me was that when Liz moved to America, she very much gave the impression that she and Landon were already separated and co-parenting from different homes. Yeah. That wasn't true. In reality, the two of them had been living together the entire time in a house that she was renting and not one that she claimed to own. Now, to be fair, I can see why she'd leave that part out. I mean, it doesn't necessarily scream, I'm thriving, but girl, that's a pretty massive detail just to casually leave out for us, just saying. And then came the plot twist of the century. We also found out that just a few months before Liz had Landon arrested, Landon actually had Liz arrested first.
Because I hit him when he made AI of me. Like, imagine going into this man's phone and finding of a picture of yourself that this guy has made. And other influencers. And other influencers as well. I don't know what he's doing with this, but I literally hit him after I found that. And then this guy called the police on me. And like, I got arrested for a little bit, but I just went to like, kind of like something really small, like when you drive the car and when you drunk drive, like something really small. So I don't have a mugshot, no, those things I didn't have. And he called the police on me. Mind you, this is after I found AI of me on his phone. Weirdo, who the was that? So then we got into his fight. This police came, they arrested me that is paying for everything. And then Yeah.
What is even happening right now? As crazy as all this drama is, I think the saddest part is what it says about the environment that baby was living in. Because no matter whose side you're on, you've now got two parents trying to have each other arrested while raising a newborn, which I think we can all agree means that nobody is winning in that situation, especially not the baby. As everything continued to fall apart, Landon filed a temporary restraining order against Liz and started fighting for custody of their son. Now, when a relationship between two parents completely disintegrates into a custody battle, it's basically all-out war. Mind you, I've never been through a custody battle myself, but from everything I've heard, they're expensive, emotionally exhausting, and tend to bring out the absolute worst in people. But when you're a foreign woman like the Wizard Liz, who gave birth in the United States to the child of an American father without fully understanding the legal consequences of that decision, you're entering a completely different nightmare. Trust me, it only gets worse from here. Eventually, Liz and Landon ended up in court. And after the custody hearing, the judge awarded Liz and Landon joint custody of their child. So this basically meant that the child would spend equal time between both parents, with the judge specifically giving her Mother's Day. At first, this almost looked like the beginning of the end of the drama. Liz and Landon had the custody arrangement, and it looked like they could now co-parent separately, in totally different homes and move away from the toxicity of the relationship. Unfortunately, that's far from what happened. Because while everyone assumed she was finally settling into life as a new mother in America away from Landon, Liz suddenly started showing up in Asia with her sister. Now, Liz framed the situation as a bit of traveling, and according to her, a way of punishing Landon by leaving him alone with the baby, which I don't really know how looking after your own child is supposed to be a punishment, but I guess that's just Liz and Landon. In any case, I think we can all agree there's nothing wrong with parents taking some time for themselves, especially after everything Liz had been through. The problem was that a lot of people felt like she wasn't just taking a short break. Because if you looked at her social media around that time, it kind of looked like she was having the time of her life while her baby was on the other side of the world. No comment. What's important to understand here is that because of everything going on with the custody battle and the ongoing drama with Landon, a lot of people had already made up their minds about what they thought was happening here. Honestly, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to see where people thought the story was going. I mean, let's just look at the timeline. A woman who built her entire identity around being high value meets a man who's allegedly abusive, addicted to validation, and pretending to be far wealthier than he actually was. He sends her $10,000 after a bad date, and 3 months later, they're married. A few months after that, she's pregnant. Then literally a week after announcing the marriage publicly, he's exposed for cheating. She's publicly embarrassed, but instead of walking away, she moves across the world to have his baby. Another few months later, they're having each other arrested and fighting over the baby in court. And then, out of nowhere, she's posting freedom from Asia without the baby. Now, when you put all of that together, it's easy to see why so many people believed Liz had simply given up, left the baby with Landon, and moved on with her life. I mean, it definitely looked that way. And then more things started happening that, at least from the outside, only seemed to confirm that theory. For one, Liz had been in Korea away from her child for maybe a little too long. At this point, it had already been a few weeks of this so-called traveling. Then Mother's Day came along. And remember how I told you that the court had specifically given Liz the entire day with her child? Well, she wasn't with them that day. So, yeah. And just when people thought the situation couldn't look any worse, Liz's sister posted a photo of her with what appeared to be a new man. My little lovebirds. And this, in my opinion, is the moment where Liz up, or at the least seriously underestimated how all of this was gonna look from the outside. Because up until this point, the idea that she abandoned her baby was just that. It was an idea, a speculation, a mere assumption people on the internet had pieced together. Nobody actually knew whether it was true or not. But a post where she looked like she had got herself a new man with everything else going around her, I mean, whether there was actually anything romantic going on or not, if the internet already thinks you've left your newborn behind, posting a cozy cozy photo with another man while you're still halfway across the world is probably like the worst possible thing you could do for your public image. And whether she intended it or not, it was probably the worst possible thing she could have done when it came to Landon. Because even if he was on the other side of the world looking after her child, this is still the same man Liz herself described as jealous, controlling, emotionally unstable, and willing to fight another man for simply looking in her direction. So if there was ever a moment you could expect him to completely lose his posting a picture with a new man was probably gonna be it. I've kept my mouth shut for so long, but honestly, I don't like this portrayal that I'm such a villain while I've been full-time parenting by myself while this person abandons their child. He deserves better than that. I love him so much and feel so blessed to be his dad. I'm going to keep doing the best I can for him. I've not spoken on any of this because of threats of extortion, slander, and I really don't want there to be any more drama, but I am just really so sick of the false narrative. That person has been lying to you this whole time, by the way. We were together and living together until the end of March. They had me arrested after they lied to the cops saying I hit them when I didn't. Prosecutor threw out the case. They lied on affidavit/court documents in front of a judge trying to disallow me from seeing my son. The whole thing is a big deception, manipulative narrative to seem like the victim, but that is not reality. If a father abandons their child, they're scum. But if a mother does it, you defend her. I want what's best for my son. I am extremely proud of my son. I believe he deserves two parents who want the best for him. I am doing the best I can. I'll stop with this internet crap, but damn, I'm sick of all of this. Oh boy. Now, whether you believe a single damn word Landon says is a completely different conversation. But if there's one thing that's undeniable is that his version of events couldn't have been more different than Liz's. Because according to Landon, they hadn't actually been separated this whole time at all. He claimed they got back together after the cheating scandal, continued living together, and were still trying to make the relationship work. And honestly, this picture is kind of speaking for itself. At some point, though, whatever they were trying to salvage completely fell apart again. But according to Landon, this time Liz falsely accused him of domestic violence and had him arrested, and was actually the one that tried to stop him from seeing their child. That's also when we found out something most people didn't even know, that the baby child was a boy, and his name was I.O. Yes, capital I, capital O, apparently named after Landon's arc ring, which is an input-output device. Now, for the rest of this video, I'm just gonna call him Ian, not because I'm trying to respect the kid, but because I refuse to believe that these people looked at their newborn baby and thought, yeah, you know what? Let's name him after a failed tech gadget. No. I just can't do it. Now, I'll be honest, it's very hard to fully take everything Landon says at face value. Given everything we know about him so far, Landon is a man driven by his ego and obsessed with controlling the narrative around himself. Considering he's also fighting for custody of Ian, of course, you know, he's gonna tell the story in a way that paints him as the better parent. But then Landon came with the receipts and, I'm just gonna show you. Liz, I told the lawyer I'm not coming back. There's nothing more you can do. Good luck finding my address, dumb. Landon, your lawyer will ask if you're sure you want to forfeit rights to your son. Liz, yes, he knows that I want to. Oh, wow? And that I won't pay for Well, if that's in writing, this is very easy. I have no words. I'm not gonna lie, these text messages made the whole situation a lot more confusing for me because they quite literally changed everything. Up until this point, Liz had presented herself as, you know, the mother who had sacrificed everything, moved across the world, and was doing whatever it took to protect her child, all while trying to make sure Landon paid for what he'd done to her. But these texts obviously paint the exact opposite picture. Instead of a mother fighting to keep her son, they make it look like she was genuinely trying to walk away from him. But I think what really hurt Liz here was that the revenge narrative she'd spent months building suddenly started working against her. I mean, for the first time, it actually looked like Landon was the one, quote unquote, winning the narrative. I mean, a mother to say in writing that she wants to forfeit rights to her son is just devastating. Maybe Landon was actually telling the truth. That not only had Liz had taken him back after the cheating, but that he was actually the more stable parent, which is, I absolutely hate that. And of course, Liz was not gonna just sit there and let that happen.
Hi guys, I just woke up to the father of my child posting my child's face on the internet saying I abandoned my child and I am literally going to sue the out of you for defamation. I don't know what to do. At this point, I'm gonna ask you guys for advice because this guy has been begging me for money. This guy makes no money. And the reason why he's mad right now is because he has literally for the past week been asking me to transfer him $2,500 and then yesterday $900 to pay for the nanny. But you literally don't have money. You literally are not employed. Why do you have a nanny? A nanny is a luxury. And the terms we agreed on, because I had to leave the country, because I literally have to wait till my visa gets renewed, and I could not take my child because you legally prevented me. I was supposed to leave the United States before the 18th of May for my visa process, or I would be banned. My house is there, my car is there, my child is there, my whole life is there. So I am literally working with the most expensive lawyers to get my visa and to get back into the United States. Landon knew this, and he knew this all along, but right before I had to leave, he wanted me to get married to him for a green card instead. I refused because he wants to get married so he can come for my money. And he basically went and he got a restraining order against me so that I could not take my child with me. So I had to spend my birthday without my child. I have been begging this man to come to Europe. I'll pay for your flight. Please bring my child. He refuses, and anytime I act like I don't care about my child, or I'm like, okay, whatever, like I'll act like I moved on, this guy comes online, and it's funny, he likes comments saying that the house that I was living in, or the Lamborghini that I have, that he literally owns it, or that he bought it and whatever. I sent him a message, I'm like, why are you lying? And he said, oh, sorry, I was frustrated and I liked it out of frustration. So this guy online wants to pretend that you paid for my shit. You want to take credit for my success when you haven't done shit but terrorize me, but live off of me, because the only way I could literally see my child is if I have to deal with this guy. And even at this point, I don't know what to do. I literally don't know what to do. Like, how do I get rid of this guy and still have my child? Because even if I can't get back into the United States, I'm at risk of this guy getting full custody, because my lawyer said getting a child out of the United States is very hard and the laws are so up. Like, I am exhausted. On top of that, this guy is fucking racist. The whole time that I have been in the United States, this guy have told me to get out of his country. I did not know that the United States of America was built by fucking Landon Nickerson, but this guy is just a I don't know what I'm dealing with. It's like that movie from Get Out, and his whole family tries to get money out of me. I've helped his mom out. The reason that she has a house right now, a house overhead, is because of me. These people literally just want to extort me. And on the same time, they're going online and being on hate pages about me every single day. Landon every single day checks hate pages about me, checks hate videos about me. This guy has such an unhealthy obsession, and I don't know what his plan was from the beginning, but this is scary. You belong. From the beginning, since my child was born, I have paid for everything. I have receipts to show. This guy has not paid for The only time this person has shown interest in taking care of their child is because I had to leave and he wanted to make sure that I could not take my child. So for the past 3 weeks is the first time in my child's life that this person has decided to take care of the child. And the whole time playing mind games with me, saying that he'll come. And then I'm like, okay, can you come here? And they're like, no, come to Canada, come to London, come here. I'm not coming to wherever your family is living because it's not safe. Like always like racist, always microaggressions. And mind you guys, this guy has played a whole character for a whole year. Like in the beginning, he was paying for all my bills. He was buying me gifts all the time and all these things. And he was such a good guy. But that literally didn't exist. He was faking all of it. Like all of it. He faked everything. And I have to deal with this other person that I never consented to. This relationship was from the beginning non-consensual because you faked your entire personality. I never consented to getting engaged to this person. I don't know who you are. I want to be left alone and raise my child in peace. But this person is trying to hold on to every single thing he can so he doesn't lose access to me. And to use your own child for that is absolutely disgusting. I am the mother. If I post what I have on this guy, like I don't think he can show his face anywhere anymore, like genuinely. So I have literally tried to just ignore you, to deal with all of this financial extortion, to deal with this abuse, just to have access to my child. But at this point, I don't know what to do anymore. Like, I am genuinely exhausted. This guy also always threatened when I was in the US to call ICE on me every time. So he had me in a position where I was genuinely scared of this guy until my sisters told me, like, Liz, stop letting yourself get blackmailed by this guy or hold something over your head. Like, it's never going to end. So she was like, just leave for your visa process, because I was so scared to leave because I was like, I'm gonna lose my child.
This video was part of Liz's Instagram live stream responding to Landon's posts. And like I said at the beginning of this video, the situation Liz found herself in is genuinely awful. From this live stream alone, I personally don't think Liz, abandoned her child. In my opinion, it's clear that the situation spiraled completely out of control to the point where she ended up separated from him. Like, watching her here, she doesn't come across as someone who actually wanted to be in Korea. If anything, she comes across as a mother desperately trying to find her way back to her son. Because based on her account, she believes she had to leave the United States or risk jeopardizing her immigration status. I also think that Landon does deserve the hate, especially in this situation. If Liz made it specifically clear she didn't want their child's face online, posting him anyway just to get back at her because she posted a picture with another man is just incredibly immature. Weaponizing your own child like that is just completely insane, and to me it just shows that he's not really acting in the child's best interests. But while I can sympathize with Liz's situation and criticize Landon for the way he handled it, I also think it's important to separate two different conversations regarding this specific situation. One is whether Liz deserved all this, and the answer to that is absolutely not. Liz is clearly suffering, and no matter what she said or promoted in her content, there's no way I think she deserves to be separated from her child like this. The other conversation is whether this outcome was avoidable. And in my opinion, yes. Yes, it was. Because I actually think Liz's own live stream unintentionally revealed just how much of the situation was entirely preventable. Now, to be clear, I'm not talking about Landon's alleged abusive behavior. If someone is abusive, that's on them. Nobody deserves to be abused. And I'm not saying Liz should have somehow known exactly what would happen. Like, no one can predict that. However, it's hard to ignore the fact that she knew he had already cheated on her, knew there were already public allegations against him from Abby, and knew he was jealous, controlling, and emotionally unstable. Now, of course, none of that means she should have expected the abuse, but it does mean she chose to continue building a life with him in another country despite those warning signs. Again, that's just my opinion. Immigration was another major issue that, at the very least, should have been addressed much earlier. From Liz's own account, before moving to the US, she was a Belgian citizen living in Dubai. That means she entered the US on a temporary visa. Temporary visas expire, so she always knew she would eventually have to, renew her status or qualify for another legal way to stay. She even said herself that she had to leave because otherwise she'd be banned from returning, which shows that she knew her ability to remain in the US wasn't permanent. Now, immigration systems in all countries, especially America, have their flaws. But this situation specifically wasn't about the US government trying to stop her from being a mother. It was the consequences of relying on a temporary visa while planning to raise a child in the US without having to marry Landon. Like, I'm not sure if what I'm saying is a hot take, but if you're planning to build your life in another country, securing a long-term immigration status is one of the first practical issues that really needs to be worked out properly. Now, if Liz chose to stay nearby purely because she wanted Landon to be involved in Ian's life or hold him accountable as a father, that still doesn't change the immigration issue. The fact of the matter is that the immigration problem existed regardless of her relationship with Landon, which is why the situation was very much avoidable with earlier immigration plans. The biggest and probably most preventable problem in this entire situation was the child custody issue. Unlike the abuse or relationship problems Liz faced, maintaining primary custody over Ian was a challenge that was highly foreseeable the moment Ian was going to be born and raised in the US. Because in the US, child custody isn't decided by whichever parent wants to move or has more money. Once a child is born and lives in a state, that state's courts are the ones that decide custody disputes. So when Ian was born and living in Texas, any future disagreement about where he would live was always going to be decided by a Texas court. Now, this doesn't mean Landon automatically deserved primary custody or that the American courts favor abusive fathers just because, they're American. Family courts consider many factors, including abuse, neglect, and what's in the child's best interests. But the moment Liz decided to have and raise a child in Texas while her own right to remain in the US was temporary, she ultimately put herself in a legal position where an American court would decide whether Ian could leave the country. In my opinion, this was very preventable had she not had her son in America. In her live stream, Liz talks about the legal system almost as if Landon created it or suddenly used it against her. But the reality is that the immigration problem already existed, and the fact that Ian was born and living in America meant an American court was always going to have a say if the relationship fell apart. In my opinion, I think deep down Liz eventually realized that, and I think it's an incredibly difficult realization to come to. It's one thing to realize you chose the wrong man and the ideology you've spent years promoting didn't work out for you, but it's another thing to realize that maybe some of the biggest problems you're facing weren't because of a man, but also the result of your choices. I mean, looking back, it really was one terrible decision after another, and I know that's an incredibly harsh thing for me to say, but I think that's less of my opinion and more of reality when not long after her live stream, Liz received what was probably the worst news she could have ever gotten.
Are you ready, guys? Are you ready? My visa for the United States got denied. Let's go. And guys, everyone's saying yes, guys. Yes. No, listen. And why did it get denied? Let's talk. We have some information about someone that works at the place. And they basically said that someone was called and they lied about me and they made sure that my visa got denied. We all know who that guy is. So basically made me unable to travel to the United States, see my son, because they believe that I should only be in the United States if I am married to them. So they basically made me lose $30,000 on lawyers, made me lose my visa. Yeah. Let's go.
Now, it's obviously heartbreaking that Liz's visa was denied. That means more time away from her son, which is devastating for any new mother. But I also think we have to be honest about what she's claiming here. Liz says her visa was denied because Landon somehow sabotaged the application. And I'm sorry, but I have to call cap on that. First of all, saying that Landon sabotaged her visa process is a very serious allegation, yet Liz never tells us who supposedly told her that, what office they worked at, what was allegedly said, or shows a single piece of evidence that any of this actually happened. At that point, we're just asked to take her word for it, which is that's suspicious. That's weird. Second of all, what she's saying just doesn't match how the US immigration system actually works. From experience, US immigration doesn't approve or deny visas based on random phone calls from angry exes. Girl, they just don't, and thank God for that. They make decisions based on the application itself and whether you're legally eligible for the visa you're applying for. And even if Landon somehow did contact immigration, that still wouldn't automatically get her visa denied. Immigration would first have to determine whether the information Landon gave was actually relevant and credible. Now, I'm not saying any of this to beat up on Liz or try to expose her as a liar. Like I mentioned earlier, what is happening to her is genuinely awful, regardless of whether her explanation for the visa denial denial is accurate. In fact, I don't think even the most important part of all this is that Liz got her visa denied. I think the most important thing is what it ultimately did to her. Without a visa to get back into the US, Liz's chances of getting primary custody of her son became much smaller. That part is obvious. But I also think this was the moment Liz realized her plan to get revenge on Landon was over. Up until now, every setback could still be blamed by Landon. The cheating, the custody battle, the manipulation. And through all of it, Liz seemed to really believe that she would eventually win, that she would move to the US, build her new life, raise her son, and Landon would be the one who had to live with the consequences. But getting denied a visa back to the US obviously changed that. And for the first time ever, this wasn't something she could really blame Landon for. I think whether she liked it or not, he really had nothing to do with her visa getting denied. Now, for someone like Liz, who's always looked at life in terms of winning and losing, that's incredibly difficult to accept that this might have been the one time she had lost. In my opinion, after getting denied her US visa, Liz was really left with two choices. One was to step back and question whether the worldview and the ideology she'd spent years promoting had actually left her vulnerable to someone like Landon. To really honestly ask herself whether some of the decisions she'd made, like rushing into a marriage, having a child with someone she barely knew, moving countries, and tying herself permanently to someone she'd already caught cheating had played a big role to where she ended up. That way, she could actually learn from it, avoid making those same mistakes again, and get herself into the best possible position to fight for her son. The other option was to do the opposite and keep telling herself and everyone else that everything that went wrong was somebody else's fault. Guess which option Liz went with?
He's happy where he is. He's happy being dog-walked every single day. He needs to watch our kid and he needs to shut the fuck up. That's what he needs to do.
I just feel like we should invent a new religion.
Yeah.
Where women can have 5 husbands.
Yeah.
But not husbands, because like, let's not marry these men.
We never marry.
Never
we don't marry.
We don't
unless they're richer and you benefit from their money. But you have to treat them, all 5, equally.
So if one gets a beating, the other ones also get beating, okay?
Every beating should be equal.
Yes.
And the timing should be equal.
And LGBTQ, BM. Beating men should also be included. Because we also want representation.
That's what I'm part of.
Exactly.
We don't want men with opinions.
No,
you need to be quiet.
You need to be shut the fuck up.
Yes.
And you sit the fuck down. And you listen to us.
Yeah.
That's what you need to do.
The system is built by men, for men. They don't protect women. And then you have these nasty ass lawyers. I see this female lawyer, like, she got so upset because I told women to walk away instead of waste all of your money in the court. I've been money centered. I've never give a fuck about no man. Never. I've always thought, can he provide? Can he bring me money? I've seen men as ATMs my whole life. That's all I've seen in them. This ass loser, ex of mine, is not gonna break anything. He didn't build me to destroy me. Who the f is he? Out breeding ass. He's a single dad. That's what he is. Sit down at home. Watch. That's what you are, loser. The United States is the most nasty place I have ever lived. I have not felt safe. I have literally disgusting place. Disgusting.
It's clear that Liz is incredibly angry and traumatized by everything that happened. I mean, if you're separated from your child like this, of course you're gonna be angry. I think we can all agree any mother would be, especially when everything is happening so publicly. That, however, obviously doesn't excuse the things she's saying, because a lot of it is just openly hateful toward entire groups of people. It's just not okay to promote violence against men or make homophobic remarks just because you're hurt and traumatized. But I do think it helps explain where her head is at right now. To me, Liz simply comes across as someone who's clearly not in a healthy place mentally. The heartbreaking part of all of this wasn't even watching Liz's downfall from the person she once presented herself as to someone now making hateful live streams with her quite literally batshit crazy sister. Like I said, I can at least understand where that anger is coming from, even though I completely disagree about how she's expressing it. The part I genuinely can't wrap my head around is what she started saying about her own son.
Everyone says, poor child, poor child. No, nothing, poor child. My son should be with his father. I do not believe that I should stick around for my child, go through all of this abuse, and show my son that it's okay to treat women like this. It's not okay. And if I stick around, my son will grow up to do the same thing to a woman. I abandoned my child. No, I abandoned myself. Staying through all of the for my child. I want to say to every single woman, if a man is blackmailing you with your child, give them the child. Stop giving your life away for these kids that tomorrow all are going to be just ungrateful.
It's just like, look, if you have done all of the stuff and then he threatens you with, oh, I'm gonna take your child. Oh my God, take it. Thank you so much. Like, this is a dream of a lot of
generally,
mothers.
if a man threatens to take your child, give him the child. Seriously.
Like, seriously, like, this is the best time ever. Like, I can finally sleep. I can finally enjoy my time.
No, but it just makes sense.
I genuinely don't even know where to begin with what she's saying here. Liz calling her own son it, or saying he'd grow up ungrateful or an incel if she raised him herself is just, I don't even know. And I don't even know whether she genuinely believes what she's saying or if this is just an attempt to emotionally distance herself from him. But what we do know is that throughout all of this, Liz presents the situation as though she had absolutely no options left but to leave her son. That she did everything she possibly could and there was simply nothing else to do. In a pinned comment on the video titled "Choose Yourself and Walk Away," Liz writes, "I started my visa process 1 month into being in the United States, and everything I did was advised by lawyers. Landon knew I had to leave for my visa and refused to get my child a passport so I could take him. There is no way for me to get my child out of the country unless my ex decides to bring me my child. And I was constantly met with gaslighting and manipulation. I have offered $300K to buy my child from him, and even then it wasn't enough because he only agreed to give him for a year and not fully leave me alone. I had 4 lawyers, immigration, and family law. I've spoken to the embassy and no one seems to be able to help me. I am done. If he wants to be a single dad so bad, I will allow him to. May he and any man like him rot in hell."
So in 4 weeks, I can appeal the decision. And we will know what was said. So we can take this obviously further. But I am basically, I'm done. Like, I'm done. I'm not fighting. I'm not playing this game. No one is gonna blackmail me, try to do this, do that. You have no power over me. So yeah, guys, that's basically it. I really tried being a mom. I tried doing everything. Unfortunately, God doesn't want that for me. If God wanted it, I could be it. It shouldn't be this hard, right? So,
but I mean, you literally did everything.
I did everything,
like providing, getting a house, getting everything, and sometimes it's just not in your destiny.
Yeah.
Now, I don't doubt that Liz did everything she could up until this point. I do believe she was forced to leave the United States because of the visa process, and that separation from her son was something she never wanted to happen. But Liz saying she had no choice and no options left, while also admitting she could still appeal the visa decision but simply wasn't going to, just doesn't make sense to me. Yes, appealing may have been expensive, uncertain, and emotionally exhausting, but that's not the same as having no choice. What bothers me the most about her response is when Liz said she really tried being a mom. Honestly, it's pretty infuriating to hear that. Motherhood isn't an aesthetic you try for a while and then conclude that it wasn't your destiny because it became hard. When you become a parent, you sign up for the difficult parts too, because that's your damn child. And I'm sorry, but saying God didn't want motherhood for me, or if God wanted it, it would have happened because being a mother shouldn't have been this hard, is, for a lack of a better word, crazy. It feels like the responsibility is constantly being placed somewhere else. Earlier it was Landon, then it was America, then the immigration system, then the lawyers. This time it's God, apparently. Like, girl, be so for real right now. In all, Liz says walking away was the best thing she could do because she didn't want to keep suffering. She also says she didn't want to raise a son who thinks abusing women is acceptable. And by walking away, she's teaching him that if you abuse a woman, she will leave. Now, if it were any other situation, I'd agree with that. Women shouldn't stay in abusive relationships. However, this specific situation is more complicated than that. For one, claiming the situation is abusive and walking away means that Liz is leaving her child in an alleged abusive situation. Second of all, we're talking about TheWizardLiz. This is a woman who claims to be a millionaire and who built an entire career telling people to never give up on the life they want. So hearing her publicly justify stepping away from her son, despite everything she'd accused Landon of, just just doesn't sit right with me personally. Since making those statements, there's been another update in Liz's custody case, with Liz getting a new lawyer. So to be clear, it doesn't look like the legal battle is over, and I'm genuinely glad she seems to still be fighting for her child. But regardless of where the case goes from here, millions of people already heard Liz say that motherhood wasn't meant for her, that protecting herself came first, and that walking away from her child was the healthiest choice. Now, whether Liz believes that was the right decision for her at the time is one thing, but I don't think that's a message we should be promoting. Like, maybe it's just me, but if the ideology that was supposed to empower women ultimately left Liz in a situation like this in the first place, then I don't see anything empowering about that. The Wizard Liz's baby trapping saga is ultimately a story about what can happen when you have a child with someone you barely know, all for the wrong reasons. It's a story about the gendered ideology of manifestation and choosing provider men, ultimately failing women who believe in it. With a story like this, it's hard to end on a positive note, because in the end, I don't think the biggest victim was Liz. Girl, it definitely wasn't Landon. In my opinion, the biggest victim in the story was Ian, or Io, their son. He's the one who has to grow up with the consequences of choices made by the adults around him, and that's just sad. But despite everything that's happened, I do genuinely hope this isn't the end of Liz's story. Recently, Liz was spotted at a protest in London supporting Afghan women's rights to education.
No to Taliban! No to Taliban! No to terrorists! No to terrorists! No to...
Honestly, I love this for her. She seems happier, and I hope she continues putting her energy into, you know, causes that actually help people instead of spreading hate online. More than anything, I truly wish Liz the best. I truly hope she gets the professional support she needs to heal. Because if she does, I honestly believe she can put herself in the best possible position to get back to America, keep fighting, and one day rebuild her relationship with her son. With all that being said, I really want to know what you think. What do you think about this whole Wizard Liz story? Do you agree with my perspective, or do you see things differently? Let me know down in the comments. I actually read all of them, even if I don't always reply. Honestly, I'm just too scared sometimes. Like, to be honest with you, these videos take a lot out of me emotionally. Like, even positive comments can be really overwhelming after spending weeks researching and editing something like this. Like, it's just little me doing these videos, but I really do appreciate every comment and every perspective you share. And once again, a huge thank you to Saley for being the very first sponsor of this channel. If you want to support the channel and save some money while you're at it when you're traveling, check out saley.com/Jana or click the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.